Welcome in to another episode of the Junkyard Dawgcast. It is a Stay Wolk UGA recruiting show edition. It's been a while, so we figured what better week than this one to get back doing it. I am your host, Benjamin Wolk. As always, except for one during the summer, and I don't hold it against him. We've got Jordan D. Hill in the building. We've got a great show in store for everyone today. You know, it's a big game week in Athens, Georgia versus Alabama. As you know, that means it's going to be a loaded visitors list for recruits in Athens. So we'll start there talking about some of the big names that we're expecting in Athens. We're going to have some awesome interviews from a couple of Georgia commits in this class as well. Wide receiver, Craig Dandridge, outside linebacker, Kamari Brooks, some great insights from some members of Georgia's recruiting class that I think we're probably not talking about enough, or maybe we're talking about enough, but the national public is not talking about enough. There was a news update on the transfer portal window that Jordan and I will get into a little bit as well. And then, as always, we will do a catch up on Predict to Commit. Jordan, it's been a minute. Like I said, feels like this is the right time for a recruiting episode during the season. Have you missed me at all on these recruiting episodes?
As much as I hate to admit it, Ben, I have. I really enjoy when we do the Stay Wolk episodes. I was gonna test you. Do you know how many days roughly it's been since we recorded the last Stay Wolk?
Let's see here. It would have been around July 4th. So about, 70.
By my count, it was like 82 days.
82 days.
So it's well timed, and like you said, what a great time to jump back in. This will be a fun one, and the nice thing when you don't do an episode for a little bit is you have no shortage of stuff to talk about.
Well, one thing I realized as we were doing this was I understand the recruiting calendar has changed a little bit. The way that fans care about recruiting and when they care about recruiting is a little different than it used to be. And so this was our first year doing the Stay Wolk UGA recruiting show. I think now I maybe have learned the timing of like spacing things out a little bit more beginning of the year, going all in during May and June and into July, because that is when the bulk of recruiting updates and news are happening. And then, I like what we're going to do. I think we're going to have one sort of like this for the Alabama game. We'll see about Ole Miss, depending on the magnitude of that visitors list. Of course, it's going to be like that for Texas as well. And then we'll have a signing day special too. So I think we're starting to figure out what the episode schedule might kind of look like in the new recruiting calendar, though I say all that, and I'm sure the recruiting calendar will change 10 times over before the next time we get to the signing day. So, like I've said, Georgia versus Alabama, I don't think you have to say anything more about what that means in Athens, what that means in Tuscaloosa. This is the game weekend that Georgia coaches have been inviting guys to all summer long, saying, hey, if you're only going to make it to one, it needs to be the Alabama or the Texas game. And in many cases, Georgia wants to get guys at a Georgia-Alabama game that Georgia thinks that it could win to be able to show recruits like, hey, Georgia can actually win on this side of the rivalry. And so what I'll say is, as you're listening to this, it's Monday morning of game week. We already have a lot of names that are on Georgia's visitors list. Many of you that subscribe to Dogs 24/7 have already seen or heard a lot of these names because I launched a running visitors list at the end of last week. There will also be a lot of updates throughout the week. There's going to be guys committed to other programs that Georgia's going to be getting on campus. There are going to be guys that from the 2027, 2028 classes, maybe even some sneaky ones from the 2026 class that we don't know as much about. Their names are going to be added throughout the week leading up to the game against Alabama on Saturday. So I encourage everyone, stop what you're doing, pause the episode, subscribe to Dogs 24/7, because as you're reading this or listening to this, there's a good chance that you have an opportunity to read on Dogs 24/7 even more names that are coming out that are going to be at Georgia on Saturday. I'm going to do a run through. I'll spend some more time on some individual recruits that I find fascinating, and I think that their recruitments are interesting leading up to it. But I'll start just going through some of the commits that have told me that they're going to be on campus. I know that Georgia fans like to hear when the guys that have already committed to Georgia, when they're going to be checking out Georgia games. of the in-state commits that are going to be there or that have already let me know they're going to be there, there's not really any surprises. Tight end, Caden Prothrow, defensive back, Keelan Jones, defensive lineman, Carter Lucky, offensive lineman, Zyke Helton, wide receiver, Brady Marchese, wide receiver, Craig Dandridge, outside linebacker, Kamari Brooks. The usual suspects that have been there for the Marshall game and the Austin Peay game. Not really any surprises in that group. The one that I think people still have some questions about what's going to happen is Valdosta defensive lineman Corey Howard. Interestingly, I think that if he doesn't sign with Georgia, the reason he won't sign with Georgia is because he signs with Alabama. I think that recruitment is still a little bit interesting. He picked up an Alabama offer late. He took a visit to Alabama. He scheduled an official visit to Alabama for later in the season. They are clearly making some kind of impression on him. So it's great for Georgia to get Corey Howard back. I would still, if I was putting out a mock class right now, I would still have Corey Howard in that mock class. But it's getting interesting, and I think that getting him back on campus for a game like this, especially against the other team that he's strongly considering, it just hammers the point home. Like, Georgia really needs to find a way to win this one on the field for 2025 purposes, but also just for reestablishing some narratives. Like, again, I feel like Georgia folks felt when you beat Alabama in the national championship, that narrative is gone. Then you turn around and lose two where you're favored, one in an SEC championship game, one where you're down 28-0 to start the game, and you start to think maybe that was the fluke. Maybe the national championship game, or not even maybe, the national championship game was the outlier in this rivalry dating back to the pre-2010. And so got to win this game for season purposes, but got to win it for recruiting purposes, for future recruits, but also for guys that you even have in your own class, like Corey Howard. I mean, not out of that group, Jordan, I don't think there's a ton really to take away from other than Corey Howard.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one I'm really fascinated by, and just seeing how that one plays out. Because I'll be honest, Ben, before it really got serious with Georgia, he wasn't a guy I knew a ton about, and watching his film, liked what he showed and his potential. But yeah, it seems like those other guys, with what you consider feeling stable in today's recruiting world and how quickly things can change, I think you feel good about everybody else, but you want to see what happens with Corey Howard, and it will be interesting to see, who wins this game. Does that line up perfectly with who winds up signing Corey Howard?
There will also be some out-of-state commits that are at this game. Those are the ones that probably speak to people a little bit more. You expect Craig Dandridge there. You expect Caden Prothrow there. They come to almost every home game, and when I connected with them before the season started, they didn't even have specific Georgia games they were knowing they were going to. It was just, I'm going to all the Georgia home games. That's kind of the way that it is. For these out-of-state guys, it's not as easy. And so I know hearing that defensive lineman Valdon Sona is going to be back in town, that linebacker Nick Abrams is going to be back in town, cornerback Caden Harris, who Dante Williams went out to see on Friday night, Braden Fogel, tight end from Ohio. Those are four players in Georgia's 2026 recruiting class who haven't visited Georgia since they took their official visit, since they committed to Georgia. There's really no questions about any of those recruitments at this time. I mean, I think that those are four of the more solid members of Georgia's 2026 recruiting class. But any time that you get Valdon back on campus or Abrams back on campus, who I just want to point out, Nick Abrams, go watch his senior film right now. He is sensational. He blows me away every time I watch his Friday night film because he just does something else cool. He flies around the field. He is so fast. His length just stands out to you. He's a playmaker on the ball. But again, getting those type of defensive playmakers as well as Braden Fogel at tight end back on campus, it's going to be welcome news for Kirby Smart, for those defensive coaches. I mean, Jordan, I think it goes without saying, getting Nick Abrams, getting Valdon Sona back on campus is huge news. And it doesn't surprise you that they're there for the Alabama game, but kind of necessary to see them back on campus to make you feel good about things.
The thing that I'm interested in, I would point to Nick Abrams, not because I think there's any drama there or anything going to change, but I think you look at Shadarius Tootle, it seems like Auburn's working really, really hard to try to flip him back, over the course of this recruitment. So just making sure you're in good standing with Nick Abrams. Again, Ben, his senior highlight reel has been very impressive to date. So, hey, having him back, big game, show him what it would be like between the hedges. I think that's nothing but good news when you look at the 26th class.
I knew that Nick Abrams was a baller. The way that people in my circles have talked about him dating back to that scavenger hunt official visit that he took. I knew that people weren't talking about Nick Abrams enough. I think we were sitting in Stegman Coliseum after a Monday press conference, and I was doing the Future Dog Watch, and I pulled up Nick Abrams' film, and I asked everyone in the room, have y'all watched this dude this year? It was the first time that I'd really thrown him on and watched him in full. Obviously, senior film probably looking a little bit different than his junior film looked, and I was just blown away. I think that given how some of the optics of linebacker recruiting went over the summer, people are going to be really grateful when it's all said and done that Nick Abrams wound up as a Georgia commit. All right, one other guy that is committed to Georgia right now, I think I wanted to separate from that group for a couple reasons. One, he's in the 2027 recruiting class, Gavin Honore, wide receiver from Mater Dei High School, one of two commitments in the 2027 class. Because he committed so early, because he's a West Coast guy, I think that the confidence level around whether or not Georgia will hold on to him is not as high as it might be with some other guys. He's taken visits to other places. He's told me that he's visiting Alabama, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Texas, USC. These are all programs that he's going to take a look at during the season. That really shouldn't surprise anyone. But it's nice for him to get back to Georgia. I'll be honest with everybody. If I were predicting right now, does Gavin Honore sign with Georgia? I don't necessarily know that I would predict that. Not saying that he can't, not saying that he won't, not saying that he isn't strongly interested in Georgia, just the nature of recruiting and where he's from and how difficult it's going to be. And the fact that he is a 5'10" slot receiver. So Georgia's only going to go to certain lengths to recruit a guy at that position. We'll see, but getting him back on campus for this game is big. And I think that there's a chance that he comes back for another game later in the season as well. All right. I'm going to go through, not on the committed front, some names that stick out to me early on. And a majority of that is going to come from the 2027 class because Georgia's 2026 class is mostly figured out. They're starting to turn the page to the 2027 cycle. Now is the time where I think everyone that's a big recruiting person needs to start familiarizing yourself with the names in the 2027 class if you haven't already. But starting with the 2026 cycle, there will be at least one very big name, arguably the most important recruit remaining in Georgia's 2026 class that is uncommitted, and that is Banneker offensive lineman Jared Dowdy. He was previously committed to Georgia State. We've written a lot about him over at Dogs 24/7. He decommitted from Georgia State the morning of the Georgia-Austin P game. At the time, there were really three schools recruiting him: Georgia, Auburn, and Missouri. That has shifted a little bit. He had 3 official visits scheduled to those 2 places. He has now added official visits to Florida State, who offered him earlier this week, and Alabama, who offered him a couple of weeks ago. That official visit slate will start October 11th. He'll go to Florida State on October 11th. He'll go to Georgia on October 18th. So that Georgia-Ole Miss game, Jared Dowdy will be back in Athens for his official visit for the Ole Miss game. And then from November 1st and the 3 weeks following that, he will go to Auburn, Missouri, finishing up at Alabama on November 15th. So that does mean he will be at Alabama on an official visit during that Georgia-Texas game weekend. So he will not be back at Georgia-Texas, barring him committing to Georgia prior to finishing up those official visits. It's interesting because we know Georgia has been looking for a second offensive tackle in this recruiting class for quite some time. I've mentioned Florida commit Tyler Chuckiam. We've mentioned Hebron Christian, offensive tackle who's still uncommitted, Fletcher Turk, guys that have taken visits to Georgia, even official visits to Georgia. But it just didn't feel like they were the right fit, or they would have already been in Georgia's class. So who was it? Who was Georgia looking for? Jared Dowdy appears to be the guy. He's 6'7", 300 pounds. He's from Atlanta. Not a ton of people know about him. He was committed to Georgia State. Georgia just took an offensive lineman from Georgia State's recruiting class last cycle, and Dennis Uzochukwu. So it immediately, the second I went to his school and I saw him in person and I am connecting dots, I did the like, okay, I've been blanking on who the right possible tackle is, and Jared Dowdy just seems like the right option. If you'd asked me 3 weeks ago, I would have said he's going to end up in Georgia's class. There's almost no question about it. Georgia's on the front end of it. He's told, even while committed to Georgia State, he's told Stacey Searles and Edmund Kugbilla, like, Georgia's my top school right now. Things have changed a little bit, and I'll tell you why. Florida State, one, is a school that had been communicating with him for a while, hadn't offered. The fact that they've offered and are now getting the first official visit, we know you cannot sleep on Florida State in recruiting. We just saw last cycle, even after going 2-10, they still flip Usmani Kroma on signing day. So they are a true recruiting threat no matter what their season ends up looking like. And right now it looks like their season's probably going to be a little bit more formidable than it was last cycle. And then I'll add the other layer. His last official visit, November 15th, is going to be to Alabama. They offered 2 weeks ago. I'm not saying that this is going to play a role in his decision. Mom is an Alabama fan. And it just needs to be said. She doesn't hide it. She doesn't shy away from the fact she's an Alabama fan. You can go to her social media. She's got Roll Tide in her bio. She likes Alabama. I have been told confidently from the multiple sides of this, as well as from Dowdy's side, Mom's not going to be making this decision based on any of that. That this is truly Jared's decision. He did not grow up being an Alabama fan. He did not grow up having really favoritism one way or the other. These things are going to be kept truly open. That said, because of how Mom feels about things, because of the fact that Alabama's getting the last official visit, because of the fact that Georgia was really the school to beat, and then all of a sudden Alabama's now entering the mix, and it feels like they've leveled the playing field, or they're right there neck and neck with Georgia in this. It makes it a heck of a lot more interesting than I thought it was going to be a couple of weeks ago. This is now coming into form as maybe the most competitive recruitment in the state of Georgia coming down the stretch. We might talk about this a little bit more later in the show. But Jordan, what do we think? Like Jared Dowdy, it almost makes too much sense. It almost seems like he's got to be Georgia's guy, but I'm getting cautious at this point.
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's a slam dunk. And, I kind of thought when he backed off of his commitment around that Georgia-Austin Peay game that we might see an announcement pretty quickly. Like, yeah, I'm decommitting from Georgia State and I'm committing to Georgia. I can't help but feel bad for Del McGee and that staff because they've obviously done some really good in-state evaluations, and that's just sort of the nature of being a Sun Belt team. But yeah, shout out to our Florida State side. I know that they did some reporting last week on Jared Dowdy and just some of the buzz right there. And yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be a competitive one. And based on what Georgia's already done in the 2026 class, this may be the most interesting recruitment left on the board. There's a few other guys they're wanting to flip, and there's a few other guys that they're in communication with and trying to add to this class. But as it stands right now, I mean, I think Jared Dowdy's the one to pay the most attention to and just see how long it takes him to make that final decision.
Yeah, I think Jared Dowdy's life has changed a little bit. I've heard some of our scouting guys refer to this before, like when guys get moved up to being 5 stars or they have a great performance somewhere and they're almost still a little too green in the recruiting game to realize the magnitude of what that means. And it's like that they'll say like the dude doesn't even realize he just made $1 million yet. Like, I don't think Jared Dowdy's there yet. I don't think he realizes that when you are the offensive tackle that's left, that everybody kind of wants here down the stretch, how much his life is going to change as a result of it. So huge visit coming up. I will say the fact that he took a visit to Georgia for the Marshall game, he's coming back to Georgia on an unofficial visit for the Alabama game, and he's going to be taking an official visit for the Ole Miss game. He's going to get way more experiences at Georgia than anywhere else this spring or this fall, and it wouldn't shock me if Georgia finds a way to get him on campus one more time before signing day, even after the official visit, just because it is close, it is easy. And if he starts trending toward Georgia, I think they'll maybe want to try and get him back on campus one time just to shore him up. All right. The way I'm going to go through this next group is focusing on some of the in-state top 24/7 guys. So guys that are in the 2027 class, top 24/7, that are from the state of Georgia. I'm telling you right now, there's going to be more names on the eventual visitors list than what I'm laying out there during this episode. But the ones that really stand out and the guys that I would consider like must-gets, not as well, must-gets might be a stretch, but close to must-gets. Cannot talk about this, cannot start a conversation about 2027 recruits that are visiting without talking about DJ Jacobs, number 3 overall player in the country, number 1 edge in the country, 5-star out of Blessed Trinity. Chidera Uzo-Deribe was just out to see DJ Jacobs play on Friday night. His younger brother, who's in the 2028 class, Dawson Jacobs, defensive lineman, is also a legit recruit for the Bulldogs. Both of them will be at Georgia for that game. It's hard not to think of Georgia as the team to beat for DJ Jacobs for a bunch of different reasons, but really critical to be able to get him on campus. And I think he'll be back for other Georgia games later in the season as well. Lee County wide receiver, Jaden Upshaw, one of the best wide receivers in the country. I got to see him out at the OT7 national event down in Fort Lauderdale earlier this year as well. This is a 6'4" type of wide receiver. If Georgia's looking to go the big body variety, he's probably it. Georgia's probably trailing a little bit for Jaden Upshaw right now in comparison to some of the other guys that Georgia is recruiting at the position, but I think it has the ability to play some catch up there. Cole Crawford, tight end, linebacker from Cartersville High School, really close friends with Brady Marchese, one of the more talented athletes in the country. Georgia has offered him and recruited him as a tight end, as has most of the other SEC programs that are recruiting him. A few places are looking at him as a linebacker. He is probably going to play in the Under Armour All-American game as a junior later this year as a linebacker. So he's talented on both sides. I think he projects more to the next level as a tight end, but we know that how Kirby Smart values special teams type of guys. I think that Cole Crawford is a spitting image of what Georgia looks for in terms of you can play on the offensive side, you have a skill set there, but you're going to be involved in special teams, and him being a linebacker naturally too is only going to help him there. Georgia is without question the team to beat for Cole Crawford. Alabama and Tennessee are lingering around. He was at that Georgia-Tennessee a couple of weeks ago as a Tennessee recruit, but just knowing his background and growing up as a Georgia fan, something tells me he was pretty pumped up about how that game played out. I think that there's a chance he will commit earlier than most people in this recruiting cycle, but I would eye that Under Armour All-American game as a window when he might start getting into decision-making mode. We've talked a lot about Prince Avenue running back Andrew Beard, the nephew of Garrison Hurst, one of the better running backs in the state of Georgia. I think Georgia running back recruiting in the 2027 cycle is really fascinating because there's a great in-state group, and then we know that Georgia likes to go try and find out-of-staters when they have an opportunity. There's some in border states that might make sense, but we know Georgia likes to go national at running back if it can do that too. But then you've got Andrew Beard with family ties, great player, top 100 in the top 24/7, and he's right in your backyard. Again, not a surprise to see him on campus either, but still big for Georgia to be able to get him. And then Joshua Sam Appel and Kelsey Adams. These are probably the two most Georgia-looking offensive tackles that are in the 2026 or 2027 recruiting class. Joshua Sam Appel at Douglas County especially, really fascinating. Kelsey Adams was close to a decision at one point. I don't know if he might still be close to a decision, but both of them getting back on campus, huge. Literally, they're both massive human beings, but we know with Georgia going out of state with a family tie at tackle in the 2026 class, still trying to figure out the second tackle option in the 2026 class, they're going to want to make sure that they swing big and hit big on those in-state offensive tackles in the 2027 cycle. I mean, it sounds like a silly question, Jordan, because I feel like DJ Jacobs is the simple answer, but what stands out to you out of just that group of in-state guys?
I mean, you hit on the big one is DJ Jacobs. And again, I kind of compare this to what we were talking about with Nick Abrams, and I mentioned Jadarius Tootle. For a while now in the state of Georgia, it's been like, all right, LaDainian Guyton might be the best player. Well, in the last month or two, it seems like he's very much on the track to go into Texas Tech. So it's like, okay, if he's not going to be an option for Georgia, where do you turn? And I'd say DJ Jacobs would be one heck of a consolation prize. I mean, his dad played at Georgia, David. I think that there's just a great opportunity there, but it's not going to be an easy recruitment. And even, too, just to follow up on those offensive linemen. I mean, you need to solidify that offensive tackle spot. You don't want to be in a spot where you're moving guys around, trying to turn a guard into a tackle, trying to make the most of what's not a great situation, because we know what it's like, going through the SEC gauntlet every week. So that'll be very important too. But you made it easy for me. I mean, it's DJ Jacobs is trying to make a strong impression there and put yourself in position to try to win that recruitment in the 2027 cycle.
I had someone that I trust deeply that works with us and I'm not going to tie his name to it because I don't want him to hold him to the fire when it comes to recruit or scouting decisions or ranking decisions. But he did say to me, in the event that none of this is going to happen, it's not, but in the event DJ Jacobs elected to reclassify to the 2026 cycle, he'd still be a top 15 player in the class. That's how strongly the 24/7 sports scouting department feels about DJ Jacobs' film, the upside, the potential, the player. He really checks all the boxes. Great kid, great family. Like Jordan mentioned, he has ties to Georgia with his dad playing there. And don't let this feel like it's a nice little bonus or cherry on top. Like, Dawson Jacobs is a heck of a player, and he's a different type of player. He's not an outside linebacker, jack linebacker like David Jacobs Jr. is going to be. He's more of an interior 3-tech defensive line type, so slightly different body type, a little bit more like his dad probably than DJ is. So know that too. Like, if you get DJ Jacobs, I don't want to say you're guaranteed to get Dawson Jacobs, but if you get DJ Jacobs, you're probably getting Dawson Jacobs. So you're not just going and getting a great 2027 player. You're also going and getting a great 2028 player as well. A couple other in-state names that interest me. They're not in the top 24/7, but guys that I think Georgia will be recruiting heavily throughout this process. That is Georgia Tech wide receiver commit Jordan Christie, slot receiver type. Running backs in the state of Georgia, Jacavion Parker, Noah Parker, actually, I guess I should say. He wants to be referred to as Noah in articles now. He's visited once already this season. Mooney Gibson is a running back from Kell High School that I think will take a strong look at Georgia. Sean Green is another in-state slot receiver, sort of like Jordan Christie. He's down at Camden County. I saw him when I went down to see Elias Williams, probably like a year and a half now. He was like very fresh, just getting started with Camden County, but already was generating some interest. So Sean Green, smaller, shiftier slot receiver type, but someone that I could see getting on the board. Interesting. Brock Burris, another guy from Kell High School. It's a wide receiver, probably 6'4". Kirby Smart's nephew is probably what he's going to be referred to as more often than not, especially in this world. Georgia hasn't offered yet. I would be surprised if Georgia never offers. So I don't know what the plan for that is. I don't know if it'll be at a Thanksgiving dinner or something like that you end up extending that offer to make it official, but Brock Burris is a really, really, really good player that I think will eventually get a Georgia offer. And then Success Wabude. He and I, when we had our phone call last week, we worked on the pronunciation. He was like, everyone gets it wrong. He's like, there's nothing that you can say where there won't be something that someone said it worse than the way you did. But it's a silent N, Wabude, Success Wabude, great name. I don't want to throw the project tag on him, but he's even the first to admit, like, he's behind everybody else when it comes to how polished he is as a football player, what he knows about the game of football. But he's a legit 6'7", 220. You don't know what's going to happen with DJ Jacobs. You don't know what's going to happen with LaDainian Guyton. You don't know what's going to happen with KJ Green or Justin Weeks or some of these other elite outside linebackers in the 2027 recruiting class. Success Wabude at Athens Christian High School will be on Georgia's radar, will be visiting for that game. So just a couple of guys that are in state that we're not talking about as much. They're not as highly rated right now. But as we know with Craig Dandridges and Graham Houstons and Tyreek Greens of the world. Sometimes Georgia loves these players that are not highly rated at this point in time in the recruiting cycle. And in the new NIL revenue share world, Georgia maybe especially likes that they're underrated because they know that those recruitments aren't going to necessarily get as competitive right off the jump as they maybe should based on how Georgia feels about those players.
I'd just say, Ben, good job on the pronunciation. When I kind of dabble in recruiting, when we talk about mostly like on our podcast, there is nothing I hate more than being like, okay, I have no clue how to say this name. Based on the way you said it with confidence. It sounded right to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say like it sounds so silly and so simple, but people just sit there and butcher people's names over and over and over again. And like all you got to do is just ask the guy the first time you speak to him, how do you say their last name?
I was taught, one of my favorite teachers in high school was like, if someone ever says your name wrong, like don't be rude, but correct them. He's like, your name's all you got. So make sure that you say it right.
Cool. There are some out-of-state top 24/7 guys in the 2027 class that I think are fascinating. There will be more than this, and I even have more on our list on our page right on the website right now, and more that will be getting added throughout the week, but just some ones that stand out to me a lot early. I'm going to start with one. This is a weird one because I don't even know where we have him ranked or if he has a star rating next to him. There's a guy from a small school in North Carolina called St. Paul's in North Carolina. I met him and his coach at the Charlotte Under Armour Regional in March, or the March range, I want to say. And he walks up to me, and this dude walks up to me, and I'm like, who in the world is this dude? And when he walks up to me, he's like, hey, I just wanted to ask, like, is it possible for me to get a profile created? And his coach is like, he's already picking up some offers, like getting some interest or whatever. And I look at him and I'm like, his coach tells me some of the early offers he already has. And I'm like, how in the world do we not have a profile for you? The dude, legit, measured, verified, 7-foot wingspan. This is a massive human being, freakish size. His name's Antoine McCoy. I believe, I'll say it because I don't know if I'm not 100% sure. I believe Trey Scott was out to at least see him briefly on Friday when he was going and doing some of his recruiting visits. I don't know that he was out at his game. But since I met Antoine McCoy, no, this is completely coincidental, I might add. The dude's a freak show, and so everybody finally took notice. I just happened to be one of the people that was noticing it while everyone else was noticing it. He's added offers from just about everyone. I think Georgia offered him like a week and a half after I met him. Like he is that. I think once everyone started to get verified numbers on him, they're like, wait a minute, this is crazy. So Antoine McCoy is going to be a national recruit. He is going to be someone that Georgia really, really wants. We know that Trey Scott loves dipping into North Carolina to get some of these under the radar type of defensive linemen when he can. I think Antoine McCoy is next up. It's an interesting one because again, I don't know that he has a star rating with us right now. But man, he is going to be a heck of a player. A guy that's in the top 24/7 or top 100, a couple of guys. Jatori Williams, Central Phoenix City, Alabama, one of the better interior offensive linemen in the country. He'll be at the Georgia-Alabama game. David Gabriel Georges is a guy that Josh Crawford went to go see on Friday. He goes to Baylor School in Chattanooga. Josh Heupel has already been to a game to see him earlier this year. He was at the Georgia-Tennessee game earlier this year as well. But I think David Gabriel Georges, when I was talking about all of the in-state recruits that Georgia has at running back, David Gabriel Georges is probably the best running back on the board. He's in Tennessee, but he's barely in Tennessee. You know that Georgia can recruit that area if it wants to. I almost think of David Gabriel Georges as an in-state recruit, but it's also a very Tennessee-heavy area, and Tennessee's going to want him badly, and Tennessee runs the football really, really well. So I would lean Tennessee for David Gabriel Georges right now, but nice to get him back on campus. Santana Harvey is a top 100 defensive lineman from Lakeland High School. I think Santana Harvey is gotta know Santana Harvey. He is someone that Georgia is going to be firmly in the mix for with Florida State, Miami, no doubt about it. But Georgia's recruited Lakeland well in the past, and Georgia likes to dip into to Florida to find some mean defensive linemen, and Santana Harvey is exactly that. Texas linebacker commit Taven Epps is also a top 100 player. He will be at Georgia this weekend, this upcoming weekend for the Alabama game as well. And you might be hearing about Antoine McCoy for the first time. You might not be as familiar with him, but does anything else stand out from that out-of-state group?
Yeah, that alone, a guy with a 7-foot wingspan gets your attention. And then just kind of an observation, if you got a talented football player named Santana, just go ahead and offer him. I don't think we're making enough Santanas anymore. I was looking up Santana Moss and going back there. Usually that's a pretty good bet. Like you said, on a serious note, Georgia has done a good job in Lakeland over the last few years. So that Georgia will be paying attention there.
I had the exact same thought about Santana Moss. I was like, Santana Harvey is just an unbelievable name. Like that name screams top 10 NFL draft pick. I don't know if he will be or not, but he seems like a type of guy just on name alone should be ranked very, very high. The last name that I will mention from the visitors list, and again, I do encourage everyone that it might not feel this way because we've been talking about it for over half an hour. There's even more people that you're going to want to know about that are going to be even bigger, more important. No, I don't want to say more important, but equally important visitors that are going to come from this game that we either don't know about yet or are holding off on sharing for one reason or another. So please go check that out over at Dogs 24/7. But I can't mention this without talking about Jaden Wade. He is the number one quarterback in the 2028 recruiting class, the number one overall player in the 2028 recruiting class. And you might be saying, I can barely focus on the 26 class. I can barely focus on the 27 class. How are you going to get me to focus on the 2028 class? I promise you, I'm not going to be sitting here giving you long lists for you to break down and understand the details on every single 2028 recruit. I know better than that. I would not be bringing up Jaden Wade's name if he was not the guy in the 2028 recruiting class. Think about how Georgia recruited Arch Manning. Think about how Georgia recruited Dylan Raiola. Think about how Georgia recruited Jared Curtis. Jaden Wade is next up. We know that it is going to be difficult to recruit 2027 quarterbacks because you have Jared Curtis. You likely are still going to have Gunnar Stockton on the roster. You're likely still going to have Ryan Puglisi and or Ryan Montgomery on the roster. Like, it's not going to be easy to convince a 2027 quarterback to sign with Georgia. But what that means is Georgia is now on an even recruiting cycles schedule for shooting big at quarterback. So 2026, you're going after Jared Curtis. 2028, Jaden Wade from IMG Academy will be the guy that Georgia goes after. That doesn't mean that they're going to get him, but I do think that Georgia is in as good of a position as anyone this early on. And I think that Jaden Wade already understands what the deal is with Georgia's 2027 quarterback recruiting, what the quarterback schedule is going to look like with guys graduating. And, I think Oregon will be in there. I think the Florida schools will be in there. I think Texas will be in there. Alabama will be in there, of course. But Georgia and Jaden Wade will have their names tied to one another until the day that Jaden Wade commits somewhere other than Georgia. And that's just the way that it's going to be. So I bring that up to say this is the first time that he will be at Georgia for this football season. I think he took 2 visits in the spring, one for a practice, and I think he was at the spring game. I don't want to speak completely incorrectly, but I know he took 2 spring visits to Athens. So Jaden Wade, hell of a player, and someone that whether he goes to Georgia or not, I'm just saying it now, you will be talking about Jaden Wade for a long time. I genuinely believe that.
I can't believe you weren't going to put me on the spot and say, does he pick Georgia? So I appreciate it.
Well, yeah, does he? Yeah, I might as well. You get your 28. If you say that Jaden Wade, you can lock Jaden Wade into your class of 2028 predict to commit team right now. I'll let you do that if you want.
Give it to me.
All right, you got Jaden Wade. Lock it in. We're probably I don't know, 20 months away from doing our first 2028 predict to commit, but Jordan already has Jaden Wade on the squad, which credit to him. He had Jared Curtis on his predict to commit team this year. So it sounds like Jordan's the quarterback whisperer of the group.
Ben said it, not me.
All right. We're about to jump to a quick ad break, and when we come back, we're going to have a couple of interviews with Georgia wide receiver commit Craig Dandridge, Georgia outside linebacker commit Kamari Brooks. We'll have some things that we'll talk about from the transfer portal standpoint and just predicted commit teams coming out of the interviews with them. Before we get into those interviews, please follow along with Jordan, Kip, Olivia, and I over at Dogs 24/7. If you haven't subscribed already, please go to dogs247.com and subscribe. There really is no better time than now to jump in with that. Jordan?
Right now, if you sign up $1 for your first month or 30% off for the annual, so it's a great time, Ben.
Absolutely. So subscribe to us at Dogs 24/7. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're listening to it on Apple Podcast or Spotify, wherever it is that you get this, we appreciate you. Please subscribe. Please download. It does help us out. I hate begging, but I do appreciate anybody who is subscribing to us in any of those channels for these shows. So we will jump to a quick ad break. When we come back, we'll have a couple of interviews with two Georgia 2026 commits, and then we'll have some transfer portal talk when we get back from them. Welcome into the show, a very, very, very special guest, the guy that I've been wanting to get on the show for a long time now. 6'2", 180-pound wide receiver from Cambridge High School, led all of Georgia high school classifications in receiving yards as a junior, already well on his way, 600 yards, 7 touchdowns so far this season. We're going to get into all of that and more. Welcome to the show, Mr. Craig Dandridge. Thank you for joining us.
Man, thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Awesome. Yeah. And we're going to get into, we see for those watching on YouTube or Twitter or Facebook, they're seeing you rocking the Georgia Bulldogs hoodie right here as well. So we'll get into all things Georgia as well. But I was out at your game a couple of weeks ago when you all played Johns Creek. I think you only really got to play for a half because, well, we don't need to get into all why you only had to play for a half. It was the scoreboard spoke for itself on that one. But I wanted to drop some clips. So if you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, I wanted to drop some clips and have Craig talk through some of the things that I got to witness while I was out there and just sort of what you were seeing. But I wanted to start first play of the game. I get out there. I'd been out there maybe 10 minutes, gotten some pregame photos of you, pull out the camera. And I don't know what, I had this moment come over me. I said, I just got a feeling Craig's about to do something here to start the game. And I know it gets called back, but for everyone watching, takes the kick to the house. Talk me through, I guess, a couple things. One, did you have a feeling you were going to return that opening kick to the house? And two, have you talked with Georgia at all about doing some special teams things?
Oh, man. So that game, the game before Pope, I actually got taken off of special teams because we were up. So they wanted to start rotating people. And my coach was like, you're going to get a kickoff next week against Johns Creek. Just take it to the house when you get the chance. So in the back of my mind, that's what I was thinking about. I was like, I got to take it to the house. Like, if I get the chance and they actually kick it to me, I got to take it to the house for a touchdown. And I haven't directly spoken to Georgia about playing any special teams, but I do intend to try and get myself on the field with special teams and involved as much as I can.
Did you have a little talking to with the teammate that got the holding penalty on that one?
Oh man, yeah, Andrew Marsden, man.
We didn't have to name drop him.
Oh man, I mean, it's whatever, man. I didn't really get on. I was just like, man, it is what it is. We still went down and scored, so. It happens, I know he wasn't purposely trying to do it. He was just trying to get a good block. So,
well, there clearly was some good blocking that was going on there because I think he went untouched to the house on that one. Another play later in the half, one that I think everyone in Georgia's world loves to see from a wide receiver, and I'm assuming you probably know which one that I'm referencing here. But a little screen to your teammate. We got to watch this whole one all the way through. If you're not watching, go watch this one because the finishing here from Craig blocking the cornerback. What did you see? And did you realize how clippable that moment was going to be when you did it?
Oh man. So for me, I always take pride in blocking. I like the pancake guys. It's always just something that my coach had to actually reel me back a little bit last year from it. because like a lot of times refs will call holding penalties on it when it really isn't a holding. But so we were running a screenplay to my guy again, Andrew Marsden. I'm pretty sure he actually scored on this play. And something was just like, I know he's getting the ball, so like let me just go make a block or something. Let me just get some action going on, because like we really like weren't really throwing the ball a lot. We were really running the ball because they couldn't stop the run. So I was just like, let me try and do something. So on the clip, I think it's number 11, the Viper. I chip block him. I was hoping my teammate Grant was gonna get him, but he actually didn't grab him. So I just chip block him a little bit, and then I see the 21 shoot down from the box. So as soon as he shoots down, I grab him, and I'm just like, all right, we're going for a ride. Like I just kept driving. Like I heard the whistle, but I was like, let me just keep driving. And like if they call me off him, they got to call me off him. But he was gonna come with me to the ground.
Well, I know I still get random Twitter notifications from that play every now and again. People are still reacting to it. I don't know how it's gotten to certain parts of the internet that it has, but people love that play. The last one I'm going to ask you about, this was hand up. You know, sometimes I got to take accountability. I missed the play itself. I caught the aftermath. I want you to tell me about the play, but then also I want you to explain the aftermath of what I'm going to be showing here as well.
I know exactly what play you're talking about. So then that play right there, it was just a regular go ball that I had. We had a play concept backs on the far side to the field. I was to the boundary, and then coach was like, he's running a go. Told the quarterback I'm running a go. And originally they had a double team high. So my coach was like, hey, work the other side. But then right before they snapped, they rolled the safety down. So like I'm like, okay, like he's got to throw it now. Like it's just one-on-one. You got to throw it. So I break away from the DB. I had like a good, like, I want to say 5-10 yards away from him, caught it, scored the touchdown. And, you know, like, I'll be honest, that was the time I wasn't even thinking. Like, I don't even think, I just did the dance. My teammate, Andrew Marsden, he loves, like, we have this celebration where, like, we'll score and then, like, you'll go, like, be like a photographer taking photos. And it's like, it's just something we do. But that's what we did that time. You know, we're just celebrating, having fun.
I'll say it. You don't have to say it. It was a little cheap flag. You shouldn't have gotten the unsport. You don't even have to say anything about it. I was standing right there and I thought, I don't know, that felt a little bit weak. It's 40-point game at this point.
For me, it was like, actually I found out the flag was for spinning the ball. I typically never spin the ball, so I don't know why I spun it that time, but it just happened, and I know good and well that I don't need to do that, especially like
did coach make you serve any punishment for that, or was it kind of a no harm, no foul situation?
It wasn't like a no harm, no foul. He just made me know that, like, yo, you can't do that. Like he expects better from me, and I expect better from myself. So now I know, like, that's why the next game I scored and handed the ball straight to the ref.
Yeah.
Like I made the emphasis that I handed the ball to the ref, and then I went to celebrate.
Well, that's why I'm not a coach, because I was like, who cares? He spun the ball, get over it, ref. It's not that big of a deal. But hey, coach was doing the right thing. Let's get into, you're wearing the Georgia hoodie, obviously one of the prized members of Georgia's 2026 recruiting class. So before I get into how it all happened and the process that it took to get there, like, give me, what's the number one reason why you're a Georgia Bulldog right now?
Man, the number one reason why was I could envision myself accomplishing like all my dreams and goals there. Like when I took my visit, like it was kind of like God speaking to me, because I got the offer from Georgia like the day after I got baptized. So I wasn't really thinking about it, because like the whole time I really wanted the offer from Georgia. Like I really wanted the offer from Georgia. So then when I finally like submitted and gave my life to Christ, then I got the offer, which is like surreal thinking about it now. And then so when I go to visit Georgia, I'm like, yeah, I picture myself like accomplishing, like being a great football player, being a great student, being a great man, you know, doing all these things that I want to do in life. So I feel like that was just God like speaking to me like, hey, like this is what you want to do, like this is a place where you could accomplish those dreams.
That's great. So we've had a bunch of conversations. I don't think that I ever realized that. Like, when did you like process that? Like, you said you didn't notice it in the moment, but like now that you've thought about it, when did you realize, like, wait a minute, this is almost like a stars aligning type of thing, getting the offer the day after that?
Man, it was kind of like, I want to say, and really when I before I committed, a couple of days before I committed, I was like really just going over everything, and then like I was like, wow, like that's crazy, like that's it crazy that it worked out like that, really.
I want to kind of go back to the very beginning with Georgia, because I know you got that offer. If I'm not mistaken, was it at the junior day or just before you went to the junior day in January? Is that right?
It was just before I went to the junior day, yeah.
Okay, so I know that that's not when it all started. Like, you had been in communication with Odom before then. I know Coley had been in contact as well, but take me back to the beginning of when you felt like Georgia was a true contender for you and a real option for you when it comes to where you were going to be playing at the next level.
Yeah. So when I first got the offer, I was like amazed and everything. I was like really overexcited. I remember I was in my car on the way to work out, and I had stopped because I saw Coach Coley had called me. So I pulled over, and then I pick up the phone. He's calling me, talking to me. And then he offers me the scholarship. And I was like, it's crazy. Like, I was like excited. I was like, thank you so much, coach. Like this, you don't know how much this means to me. It's a blessing. It's a blessing and a great opportunity. Thank you so much. We hung up the phone, and like, I start screaming in my car, man. Like, I'm screaming, like, let's go, let's go, let's go. Like, call my mom. I'm like, Georgia just offered. Called my dad. Georgia just offered. I'm calling everybody, telling them that Georgia just offered. I post it. I go to work out. I put my phone down. I'm not even worried about it. I'm just working out, just thinking about it. It's crazy. And then they really became like a contender for me, I want to say midway through track season when I ran my 10.84. And that really because a lot of coaches were like, okay, they see the speed on film, but like, is he really that fast? Does he really have that breakaway speed? So when I ran that 10.84 in the 100, that like kind of confirmed to coaches that like, okay, like he's actually fast. And then they started talking to me more, recruiting me heavily, like constantly calling me, constantly texting me, wanting me to come down for visits. And then that's really when it I want to say that really put them on my radar for real.
Was it on the official visit that you finally determined that it was Georgia, or take me through that process of when you knew in your heart of hearts like Georgia was where you wanted to be?
Yeah, man, I'll be honest. I feel like that official visit, it really kind of said it. It was like, okay, like this is like everything that I can imagine, man. Like this, like Georgia, what they have to offer it's the proof's right there. They develop players and they develop men. So I knew for a fact that's where I wanted to be.
Cool. I know we've talked about position fit in the past, and I think even dating back to that junior day, like you were asking Coach Coley questions like, where do I fit in? What does the scheme fit look like for me? And I know from our past conversations, a little X, a little Z, maybe even a little slot. As you've gotten closer to December and signing and enrolling, what have the plans and conversations been around how you're going to slot in at Georgia once you get there?
Yes, sir. So the main position is really Z. Because their Z is their really kind of do it all type of player. Like I've said before, he can play outside, slot, anywhere in the back, stuff like that. And that's mainly where I'll play it. Just once I learn the offense and once I learn how to get all the signals and where each and every player goes and not just my position, that's when they'll be able to start rotating me around. So then it's really going to be mainly Z. But then once I get a little bit more experience under my belt, that's when I will start moving around more.
Knowing that the early fit is Z, like when Coley has you watching Georgia games or film now, is there anyone in particular that you're watching most closely in the offense and saying, this is how I would fit in early?
Mm-hmm. I really like to watch Talon Taylor.
Yep.
I feel like we're kind of the same type of build, same type of play style. And then really I like watching Zach Branch to see how he likes to play the slot. Because, Zach Branch probably one of the best receivers in the league right now, in my opinion. That breakaway speed is insane. And then I would watch Kobe Young. I like watching all the receivers, man. I like watching how each and every one of them play.
No, I think that's a great segue into what I was just about to ask. We've had Ryan Mosley on the show. We've had Brady. We've had Ryan Mosley on the show. We've had Brady Marchese on the show earlier in the year. And I asked both of them this as well. James Coley pretty much flipped the Georgia wide receiver room in about a year or 2 years. And, you see all the elite playmakers that are there now and the elite playmakers that he's bringing in with this 2026 class. What is it about James Coley that has all of these playmakers want to come do it at Georgia?
For me, I can say is one, just seeing the credentials that he's had. He's worked at elite wide receivers at the college level and on the NFL level. So that's a guy that knows what he's doing. He knows how to develop the wide receiver position, not just physically with running routes, but also mentally, with coverages and everything, and how to understand what a DB is showing you, how to attack a certain DB's coverage, how to attack a press man, a soft press, a off man, how to attack all those different coverages. And then also his relationship, I feel like me and Coach Coley really connected. And, that's really a guy that I can reach out to, not just about football, but really anything. And that's really what I've been trying to do, just talking to him about just life in general, stuff I'll be struggling with, any advice that he can have, and especially him getting a coach's perspective from it too. That's really my biggest thing. That was my biggest thing for the coaches that would be coaching me. Can I talk to you about anything?
When he tells you change the game, what does it mean to you?
Man, change the game really means like change the outcome of the game. Like just be the difference maker that as soon as you get the ball in your hands, you know you're going to make a play that'll change the momentum of or outcome of the game.
I do want to ask this question about Brady. I know in the 100-meter regional, I think you got him by about a tenth of a second. Yeah. I think in the 100-meter state prelims, you got him by, I don't know if you all are in the same heat or not, but you got him by about a few hundredths of a second. Have you held that over him at all since then?
Nah, man. That's my guy. I don't really talk about stuff like that with him, because like we're both competing at the end of the day. So there's no point for me to hold it over his head.
No, okay. I figured not. I figured you're too humble for that. But, again, I'd be all over Brady. I'd be saying, man, I need to see you below 11, Brady. Come on now. Yeah. All right. Along those lines, how much has there been a bond forming or relationships building with Brady and Ryan and even some of the other pass catchers at tight end, Lincoln, Caden, Braden? Like, what's that been like for all y'all so far?
Yeah. So for me, mainly the guys that I've been able to talk to are Caden Prothro and Brady Marchese. I've known Brady since like, I want to say 8th, 9th grade. So it's always just like a reconnecting, just being able to like talk a little bit more because, he lives all the way in Cartersville. So I'm all the way at Cambridge. So it's not really like see him on like a day-to-day basis. But whenever I see him, it's always good vibes. Always been able to talk to him. Like I've known him for like forever. Haven't been able to really have a conversation with Ryan. But with Caden's a chill dude. We just talk about football. I can tell he's a pretty low-key dude. It's chill though. I like being around guys like that.
No doubt. Yeah, no, I think you and Caden have a lot in common, I would say as well. I will also ask about the quarterback position. I know when we were talking before you committed, like you were talking about Tennessee and Georgia were some programs that were high up there for you. And a big reason for that, Faison Brandon and Jared Curtis and that quarterback effect definitely appealed to you. What do you know about Jared? How much have y'all gotten to know each other and how important was having a solidified quarterback in the class to making your ultimate decision?
Yeah, it was a very big piece for me because I want to be able to have a guy that could like really sling the rock around and have like a lot of experience under his belt and confidence, in that position and be able to lead the team. And I see that in Jared. I see that he is a like very poised and developed quarterback with the arm, man. I saw this one clip. He was rolling out to the right. He had a receiver in the end zone, and he just literally slung it. It was a crazy pass. I don't think I've ever seen a high school quarterback make that type of throw.
Yeah, he's like 6'4", 232. I think people don't realize how big he is either until you start watching clips. Are you the type of guy that watches other people in the class's huddle film, or like do you try and like keep up with what other people are doing?
I mean, sometimes I'll watch people's film. I'll be like, oh, really a dog. But like sometimes we have a group chat where they'll send clips in there, and I'll be like, oh, that's crazy, a crazy play that they just made.
Cool. I have some rapid fire questions that I want to get into, but before I get into that, one last one, we've talked about when you're watching the college game or the NFL game, guys that are sort of inspirations to you or that you watch, and you've name dropped some interesting ones to me, but I'm curious, like who are the people that you're watching right now that I'm not saying you're modeling your game after, but you draw some inspiration from?
Yeah. One thing I will say, the way London, he like understands the game. I try to like be more like him in that situation because like I feel like when you're able to understand the game, it'll come so much more easier to you. And like that play against Tennessee, come on, that was insane. And then I model my game after, or I like watching CeeDee Lamb, Malik Neighbors, Justin Jefferson, Evan Stewart. Those are the type of guys I just like watching. Tez Johnson, Emeka Ibuka. Those are some of the like elite guys that I like watching.
I went through and I looked at all of our interviews that we'd ever done. And I'd asked that a couple of times, like, who are some people that you're watching? You mentioned Neighbors, you mentioned CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Tez Johnson, Evan Stewart. You mentioned Jeremiah Smith. Of course, everyone likes Jeremiah Smith. You also mentioned Ryan Williams. This is going to be airing during Alabama week. So I don't know, is that why you decided to leave Ryan Williams off the list this week, just out of respect for the rivalry?
Yeah, I couldn't say his name, man. I'm sorry. That's just how it is.
It's all good. No, but again, I mean, that's what I like most, and what you bring up about London there. It's like the versatility factor of all the different guys that you mentioned there. I think you can really see how you piece all of that together in your game. All right, some rapid fires that we're going to go through before we call it. What number do you want to wear at Georgia?
Man, I would like to wear 4,
but I don't know if it's going to be available, right?
Yeah, but I wouldn't be against wearing 88. I wouldn't be against wearing 88.
Okay. All right. I was going to ask that. If it can't be 4, what would it be? All right.
Yeah, a lot of guys like to just be like, like the jersey's baggy, but they're going to make it to fit you, bro. Like You make the number. Number doesn't make you, man.
Yeah, no, exactly right. All right. If I can only watch one play from your high school huddle tape, any year, any game, any moment, what clip would you say that I picked?
Man, one clip. Oh, man, I would think it would have to be, it was a slant I had against Johns Creek my junior year.
Okay.
Where I got the slant, ran, and I just stopped on a dime. And I took it 90 yards to the house.
All right, cool. I'll try and do something for social where I kind of mash up you talking about that in that clip. I'll go find it for sure. If you hadn't chosen Georgia, who would it have been? Georgia fans are going to love hearing that response because that makes them feel like, oh, it was always going to be Georgia. But I know others were in there.
Others were in there, like you said. I think it was really like Georgia. Georgia was the one because I knew when I got the offer, I was like, if I can go to Georgia, I'm going to Georgia. It's Georgia. But I think it probably would have been Oklahoma.
Okay. What was it about Oklahoma?
The wide receiver coach and the community that they have out there.
Okay. And I was going to ask that, and that might have been the answer to this, but who was the hardest head coach or position coach to let know that you were going to be going to Georgia?
Yeah, man. It was Oklahoma. It was Oklahoma coach, man. It was hard for me to make that call. Really all the calls are hard for me because I feel like all those schools really like they use their money, their resource, their time to like talk to my family, talk to me, and fly my family out, talk to us, like get us involved, have a great time. So I feel like it was always hard to make those calls, especially Trent McKnight too. It was a hard call with that one too.
We never really talked about this after the visit. I know we did beforehand, but you took the official visit to Stanford, which is not everybody's taking official visits to Stanford. What made you want to visit Stanford, and like what's different about Stanford and that you learned about it from that trip?
Yeah, I mean, because I wanted to show that like a lot of guys see me as like, oh yeah, he can run routes, he can catch the football, but I'm also like I'm really like an academic guy too. Just being able to have like that option to go to Stanford. That says a lot, in my opinion, because like not a lot of guys have an offer from Georgia and Stanford, two high academic schools, one very prestigious academic school, and like a top 10, top 5 college football team too, man. So that's a prestigious honor for me to have, and I'm truly thankful for it. So I was just showing the world that like, hey, like this is a legitimate option too, because you can go to the NFL here and have a great degree there at Stanford.
If you could pick your roommate freshman year based on what you know already, who are you picking?
Bro, I have no clue yet.
I mean, it's got to be Caden or Brady, right? Based on what we're talking about.
Yeah, like it's literally probably going to be Caden or Brady. I don't know. It seems like I don't know how to say like for sure because I don't know if I'm going to get like a 2x2 or a 4x4. Like I don't know yet.
Yeah,
so,
true.
2x2 is probably going to be Brady or KD. 4x4, I have no clue.
All right. What's your favorite route to run?
Favorite route, a post or a slant?
Post or slant. All right, cool. And this will be my last one. How much do you hold it against me that 24/7 still only has you as a 3-star and on 3 has you as a top 10 player in the country?
I'll be honest, I don't check it at all.
Thank you. That's the answer I wanted to hear.
I don't check. Like if I get tagged in something, I'll be like, oh shoot. But it's usually like my parents sending me something, I'll be like, oh wow. It's a blessing, obviously, but like I'm not really the type to be like, oh my God, I'm not in this top 10. Oh my God, I'm not. It's not really my thing.
Yeah, well, you know how I feel about it, and I think it'll all work out in the end, and you don't care one way or the other. But I just wanted to make sure that I was still on the good side for you.
Yeah, man, always, because like really, how I think about it, even this time last year, I was a no star. So
that's fair. That's fair. What was the offer for you that like changed the game, where it was like, oh wait a minute, this is a real opportunity for me?
I think it was Arkansas and Georgia Tech. Arkansas was my first Power 5 offer that I got.
Okay. I mean, awesome. Cool. Well, Craig, appreciate you for joining us. I promised you I would only take 15 minutes, and now we're 22 minutes in. That just shows how great of a guest you were. So I appreciate you for that. I will want to have you back on for our signing day special that we do in December. So do you accept that offer?
Of course, yes, sir.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, I got to make sure to do it while we're live so that I can hold you to it with the fans as well. But we appreciate you hopping on. We will have you on again. Enjoy your bye week that you've got here, and then you'll be at the Alabama game, right?
I will be there.
All right, cool. Well, I'm sure that I'll see you around there, and appreciate you again for joining us.
Yes, sir. Always. Thanks for having me.
Welcome into the show a very, 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 very special guest, 6'4", 235-pound edge from North Oconee High School. Member of the top 24/7 rankings. He's a football state champion. He's a 2-time basketball state champion. He's the only Jack linebacker in Georgia's 2026 recruiting class. Kamari Brooks, we appreciate you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. No problem. Glad to be here.
As you know, I've been wanting to have you on for a while now, but I felt this week was a great opportunity to bring you on because it's Georgia-Alabama week. It's a big episode for folks. And as many people who are listening to this are aware, you really came down to Georgia and Alabama before choosing Georgia. So I'll start with this question. Why do you hate Alabama so much?
I don't hate Alabama. Those guys, they did a great job recruiting me, to be honest. Steve Rob, he's a great coach. You know, all those guys up there, they really loved me, and they really brought me in, made me treat me like a family. But in the end, I obviously chose Georgia, and I just felt like that was the best fit for me.
You're already Kirby Smart, Chidera Zidoribe, already happy that you're not playing the media games with silly reporters trying to get gotcha questions on you. So all jokes aside, I know early in the process, more than most people, you really narrowed it down to those two. That's where you wanted to take your OVs. Those were the two schools that you really wanted to decide about. We've seen that a lot through the years. There's a lot of similarities between the two programs. But for you, what was it about those two programs early on in the process that separated themselves from everyone else?
I feel like they really recruited me the same when it comes down to they really kind of made me their, I guess, top priority at the position. So that was a big part of it. Also, just the pedigree of those two schools. They did nothing but won for a very long time there. They were since Kirby there, and getting Caleb DeBoer, even though he's obviously he had high expectations for him, I feel like he came in, did a good job, and they have a good team over there. They play the jack position kind of similar when they do a lot of different things. That was my biggest thing, just being able to be versatile. I feel like in the scheme, and that's kind of what both of those schools do. So I kind of like those are my two reasons that I really narrowed those schools down and really got to those two at the end.
Well, we'll obviously get into the whole Georgia side of it, but I do find the Alabama side of it fascinating. And I get this question a lot, and I never really have a good answer to it. And I guess you might not either because you ended up choosing Georgia. But I get asked a lot from Georgia fans that are asking about recruits that are from Georgia that end up signing with Alabama. And they're always like, why did they go to Alabama? Like, why did they leave the state of Georgia? Like, can you put a finger on, I know it doesn't apply to you because you chose Georgia, but like, can you put a finger on why guys like Xavier Griffin or Jordan Edmonds or Caleb Downs, or we've seen it time and time again, why they do have interest in leaving the state and going to Alabama?
They recruit really well up there. They recruit really well up there. I would say that's a big part of it. The coaches, like the way they recruit you, the way they make you feel, like the way they take care of you when you go up there, it's like great. Like it's a great place to be. I'm not ever doubt that place as a place that I could obviously see myself because that's what it came down to in those top two. But I can see why they understand they want to, kind of leave the state of Georgia. But, I feel like this is where I chose and this is the best place for me to be.
How did that play in for you? Because you're even different than most. Like you're basically in Georgia's backyard. Like you could like walk to Georgia's campus basically. Like how much did you have to weigh the I want to stay home, but I also kind of want to get away from home? Like how much did that play into your process at all?
No, that definitely weighs into my process. Like you said, I'm based in the backyard. Everybody down here kind of knows who I am, and I guess knows who I am because my mom and my family before I even started playing, and also just the player that I became now. So it was definitely a thing that I thought of, but I really had no problem with leaving home and going to Bama because it was a place that I could see myself. But obviously, I chose to stay in my backyard and just do it down here for my family and the people that know me down here.
All right, last Bama question before we get into all things Georgia. One thing that I found the most fascinating about all of this was Christian Robinson, your lead recruiter over there at Alabama. He, of course, played at Georgia. He's very familiar with the state of Georgia. How does he go about talking to you about Georgia and his familiarity with Georgia, knowing that it really came down to an Alabama-Georgia recruiting battle?
Now, he was understandable the whole time. Like he understand the school that Georgia was. He understood that if I wanted to go there, and that was the best place for me. But he always made it just seem like I understand if you want to go there. It's a big place to be. Don't ever take those guys out. But I also want you here and be coached by him. Obviously, it's just making me feel like I didn't have to be pressured into going there. He just almost made me feel comfortable in the recruiting process.
Cool. All right, let's get into stuff. The people listening, this is the part that they want to hear. So what's the number one reason? He's rocking the Georgia Power G right here for those that are listening or watching on YouTube. What's the number one reason why you ended up a Georgia Bulldog?
I want to kind of give you just two of those number one reasons. One was Coach Smart's the defensive head coach. I feel like that's a big priority when you want to commit to a school. You want to kind of commit to a school that the guy that's the head of it is really he was a DC at once. He was one of the best to ever do it at that DC position. Also, Coach Dribe, he recruited me very hard from the start. After that state championship again, he kind of, I guess you could say, stepped up recruitment, and I became just the number one guy at the position. And I was really the only guy that they, I guess, pursued as hard as they did. So I would say those kind of the two reasons that I really chose there.
That second part is something that I wanted to ask about specifically. I know that we've talked about it a bunch through all this, and I've seen, I think it was your uncle had put out the video at one point on social of the behind the scenes from the visit where Chidera Uzodiribe is having the conversation with you about, hey, only planning to take one in the class, and you ended up, being the one. And, a little shameless plug for our Dogs 24/7 subscribers out there. We've been, saying since the beginning of the year, like Kamari Brooks is the guy that Georgia wants at that position. What's the backstory on how and when Georgia made you realize you were that number one option there?
Kind of a lot of people probably already know this, but it was after, I guess, I would say my state championship game. They all watched the game. I think they're all somewhere probably watching it. And they were like sending me clips and posting on Instagram of like the stuff that I was doing and the quotes that I was saying. So I would kind of say after that game, that's when they really just started to send my recruitment hard. And after that, he just kept going from there all the way until I came in. He would try to get me up there as much as I can, text me, call me, just try to come to my practices. He would show up in weight training. So he kind of did everything that I would say a recruiter would need to do to get a kid to come to school.
I mean, that clip that we saw, like, what was his message to you when, like, I know we saw like a small sliver of it, but what was his message to you, like, on that visit that reiterated to you, like, all right, I really am top guy here?
He would say, like in that visit, he gave me things to kind of work on and things that he's seen that I would feel like would get in my game and the way that they would translate to the jack position there. And you feel like he's seen a great transition to where I could be able to just come in and really have those things when I'm playing off 2 feet, playing on the line, being able to play stack backer. So I feel like all those things and that message of saying we're only taking one and he wants to be me, that's a very kind of thing that you don't really see a lot. But you see that, you feel like you have to take the opportunity.
I mean, it sounds like a silly question, but like how pivotal was that when you're trying to separate two programs that you feel strongly about? Like how much of a difference did it make that you were the guy that they wanted?
No, that was kind of the same way it was at Bama, to be honest with you. So, yeah. But it was also just like to hear that and have those two schools, but had Rebay the way that he did it, he let me know all the time that, I'm the number one guy. He's not really doing too much other recruiting. Well, also he was because he never knew if I was going to commit or not. But he always made me know that I was the number one priority of the position.
All right, I wanted to ask you about, and I'm sure you've been asked about this a million times, but I wanted to ask you about this moment from your official visit here. For those watching on YouTube, X, Facebook, you can see the photo, but for those that are just listening, you might have seen this photo in the past. This is Kamari Brooks with, 50 different people, players that were there with you on the official visit that you took. Tell the backstory on how this photo, I don't know if I've ever seen one like this on any Georgia official visit. What's the story here?
You see my boy Landon in there, Landon wrote that.
Yeah, of course.
There. He was talking about, I guess, him and Chase were my, my guys that kind of took me
Your
to the
player
OV.
host.
My player host for the OV. Those are my two guys. And kind of Coach Coop, everybody was kind of standing around taking pictures of everybody. And Coop was like, hey, everybody come get him Kamari. So I kind of got in that picture. That's a very good picture that I don't think anybody's ever got with all those type of players and the pedigree that those players have at that school. So it's a very cool moment to see all those players again and show the love to me.
Now, when I saw that photo, my recruiting guy instincts pop up, and I say, "Man, Kamari Brooks, of course he's going to Georgia. How does he take this photo and not go to Georgia?" You swear that you did not know you were going to be going to Georgia when you took that photo. When was the moment that you knew for sure that you were going to be going to Georgia?
I always told myself that I was going to wait till after I took my Bama OV because I understood what their opportunity was up there. So, no, after that moment, I didn't know. But after that Bama visit, I kind of sat down and really thought about it the next couple of days. I told Rebay maybe a week or two before I actually chose to commit or burst it to the public. So I feel like after that, kind of a couple of days after that Bama visit, I really knew that I was going to go to Georgia.
So you were really prepared. There was an opportunity that you were going to have all those guys post for that photo, and then you just may not have ended up there.
There actually was an opportunity for that to happen.
Well, to the relief of many in Athens, Georgia, that didn't play out that way. I did want to ask you about this because you brought this up earlier. It seemed like you were at every Georgia spring practice that you could be at this spring, or you were there a lot more than most guys were. Was there any point during the spring at all where, I know you didn't really know until after the OVs, but was there any point in the spring at all where Georgia started to take command of your recruitment at all?
Probably so. I would probably say because obviously getting to see a school that many times, that definitely going to get to your head. Okay, this is where I want to be because I like the way they practice, or I love the way they practice, the things they do at practice, the way that Coach Schumann, Coach Drebe, and all of them kind of develop their players at practice. That's the thing that I got to see. I don't know. I think I was probably there for every practice except for maybe one or two. So I was there a lot, and being able to see that and be able to feel that environment and be there. And they kind of let me be kind of wherever I wanted to be when I was there. Just walk around and listen to everything, soak everything in. So it was a very important thing. But I would definitely say they kind of took a jump in my recruitment at that time.
I mean, speaking of taking in the environment, my personal favorite part of Georgia football practices is Kirby Smart on the microphone. I know that everyone's got a good Kirby story. What's your favorite Kirby Smart on the microphone story from a practice that you've been at?
Everybody probably thinks he's always one of the players, but he'll also go to coaches too. He holds everybody to a very high standard there. So it's a good thing to see he holds everybody to the same standard. When if the player's not playing, it's on them, but it's also the coach's fault because they're the ones coaching them. So he holds everybody to a high standard there. It's a good thing to see.
No, I think that's a great point. Is like nobody's safe. My coworker Jordan Hill, he's gotten called out by Kirby on the mic when he's been out there before because he wasn't focused on what Kirby felt he should be focused on. So that's just the nature of being out at practice. Everyone's on the hot seat.
Definitely.
All right. So wanted to talk with you about your game a little bit, and we will get into the jack linebacker, outside linebacker, edge rusher, edge setter type of things that Georgia's going to be asking you to do. But before I get into any of that, I wanted to ask, you also play basketball. Your mom says that you find an open gym whenever you get an opportunity to find an open gym. You're a 2-time state champion. I mean, what should people know about your basketball game? Are we a serious hooper?
Yeah, I was a serious hooper. I traveled with Georgia Stars, which is the EYBL program in Atlanta up there. So I played some of the best players in the country, probably all these guys that are ranked top 50, I played Caleb Wilson, who's probably going to be a lottery pick in high school. We beat him in the state championship. Played all these D1 guys. Probably played a lot of D1 guys in my time. So I would say that I'm a legitimate hooper when it comes down to it. If I chose to go that route, I probably could have went somewhere if I was really liked it and chose to play basketball. I was a basketball guy until probably my freshman year of high school when I kind of liked it and started getting recruited to play football. So I would definitely say that I'm a legitimate hooper when it comes down to it.
Well, everybody that listens to this show has heard me say it a million times, but they know that my favorite football players are ones that are elite basketball players as well. So that's part of the reason why you're one of the favorites around here for this recruiting cycle. Also, not just outside linebacker, you're playing a lot of tight end. I mean, I was at the East Side game last year. You had the game-winning touchdown at tight end. A couple weeks ago, I saw the 80-yard catch and run that you had along the sideline as well. I mean, I know you've gotten in the ear of Kirby Smart. I know you're friends with Jake Bobo, maybe in the ear of Mike Bobo a little bit, saying, hey, we need to get me a package when I get in town.
No, they see me. I was at the 7-on-7. All the coaches obviously watching out there play. Coach Smart said a couple of times, and I like you at tight end. So he definitely said a couple of times. You'll see Coach Hartley sit there and joke around with Coach Drebe. Coach Bobo also jokes around with him. So they definitely see my ability there. I got recruited to play the position at a couple of different high major schools. But I also just do what my team needs to do. They kind of trust me to do a lot of different things on offense, and they trust me to, help the guys out. So I definitely love to play position. But I mean, if they see that I can do that, man, they definitely put me over there. But I'm just focused on the jack position to start.
You'll have me. I'm gonna get the Kamari Brooks Heisman campaign going year 3 or year 4. Make sure that you get some snaps on the offensive side of the ball. When you're describing your game on the defensive side of the ball, what are you, just simple question, what are you bringing to the defensive side?
A very smart mind, I would say. I kind of point things out that we see if Lama's a 2-point stance, his pass. He has his foot back farther, it's pass. He's more heavy on his front hand. It might be run. Different things that the receivers kind of line up with their motion or not. So I feel like that's one part of my game that I bring to it. I watch film on that just to pick it up. Kind of helps everybody else out on the defense. Physical run defender. Kind of say all these guys kind of like the pass rush and do all that stuff, but it's also very important to be nasty in the run game when it comes to cheeking pullers, spilling pullers, 2-to-1 and guys. So I feel like those are 2 games that I really bring to the football field to even the player the most.
What do you think? I mean, for Georgia to only go take one guy at a position, they obviously are very convicted in what you are able to do and what you bring to that jack position. From your conversations with Kirby Smart or Chigaro Zodoribe, what makes you such a great fit for what Georgia tries to do with that role?
Because Kirby also said he could see me playing inside backer. He likes the way that I play because our high school does a lot of different things when it comes to position, when it comes to standing up, being able to drop in coverage on first and second down, also being able to play on the line of scrimmage, maybe put your hand down sometimes, play it up the tight end, pass rush on third down when you need to get home. So they really see me be able to do all that stuff. Playing off 2 feet is a big thing because they feel like I'm a guy that be able to do that, come in and not have to, I guess, learn how to play off 2 feet because I kind of done it my whole high school career. So I feel like that's all the things that they kind of see in me because better take one guy, they have to have a lot of trust in that guy.
If I can only go watch one huddle tape, one game from your huddle tape of your entire high school football career, which game would you choose?
State championship.
Yeah.
First Marist last year. I would guess that would be the game that I played. I also had some mess-ups in that game that probably a lot of people don't know, but I also had a great game, and I was able to do that for my team.
I want to ask you about that because you're right. Like Georgia cranked it up with you after that state championship game. I think that everybody just that pays attention to high school football in the state of Georgia, like that was the light bulb moment for everyone saying like, oh, this guy is it. Like what did you realize the magnitude of that game going into it? Not just, I mean, obviously you want to win the state championship, but the magnitude of like what that game could just mean for your career.
Yeah, I also knew you obviously know that you play late in your career, the more eyes are going to be on you. There's only 2 top, maybe I think it's 10 teams that's playing at that time, I guess in 4A or in the whole state of Georgia. So you have that many eyes on you. So I definitely understood that if I kind of really game and showcase my talents, this game that I know the buzz is going to be around. And that's kind of what happened. A lot of buzz started to kind of come around. I started to just, I guess, get recruited harder at that time. I'm not saying schools weren't recruiting me, but you definitely know the buzz of that because there's not many eyes playing at that point. So you know that you have more eyes on you.
Do you know, are you planning to wear 5 at the next level?
If I can, I definitely will. Raylan, has a good season. He probably plans on leaving, obviously. But if he doesn't come back, it's also going to be a great thing for the football team because he's a very good inside backer there. But, yes, I would definitely choose to wear 5 if that number came available.
So that's what I was going to say. It's like Raylan's probably like, he could be there. He could not be there. If he goes, you get 5. If he stays, 5's not available. What do you do?
I started my freshman year here with 35 at North Oconee, so I would kind of try to keep that, I guess, that triangle on it. Kind of what I did, start at 35 and be able to move into 5 as my career came on. So that would definitely be like a cool moment for me, I would guess you could say, because I kind of went through the same transition. Cool.
I wanted to ask you about this, and you brought this up earlier when we were showing the group photo. But obviously, your high school teammate, Landon Roldan, we've seen him. A lot of people listening haven't gotten a chance to see a ton of him at Georgia yet. For the folks that are going to get to see him in the future, like what is it about his game that people should know most about as he gets further along in his college career?
He's a great athlete, as many of y'all know. He's one of the fastest recruits in the country when it comes to runs a 4.3. So that's kind of, I would say, people know most about his game, but they also know he's at times been physical. He has to be physical for run blocking. He won the Wood Award at our school. It's kind of like the awards for the best block in the game. He's won that award. So he's a great Sparks football player also. He's gotten better at running his routes. And I know I text him. We text a lot. He just tells me about how he's doing at practice. He said he's having a good couple of days. So he's a player that he's going to come in. He might not say a lot, might not talk a lot, not going to be high or too low, kind of stay mid-level guy, but he's a great football player.
How much did he play a role in helping you get to Georgia?
He kind of they have like a thing there. They're kind of the best recruiter, and he was I think the 3rd best recruiter when it comes to because he got me committed. So he recruited me the whole time. As soon as I kind of got that offer, when he kind of got into the Georgia space and not at North anymore, he definitely texted me all the time and kind of let me know what they were saying, and he just wanted me to be there with him because we have a great friendship.
People that are listening won't know what I'm talking about when I say this, but are there any regrets about wearing a Tennessee headband for the state championship last year?
No, I just chose to wear it because that's like the most comfortable one. Now that headband actually has a Titan T on it, but I don't really have a Tennessee one anymore. Nah, it was the most comfortable one I wore, but people probably didn't see the gloves I had on that game, the towel I had on that game. They really didn't see that part of it, but everybody had something to say about it. That's when I went to practice with Georgia the couple weeks after that. They all had something to say about my Tennessee headband.
Well, yeah, I mean, every article I wrote, I was like, anytime I wrote about you or Landon or both of you together, I was like, I got to post this photo because it's too good of a photo. And then every time I do it, all the comments on the Georgia site would just be like, wow, is he going to Tennessee? Why has he got the Tennessee headband on? Everyone's panicking.
Yep.
All right. I'll end here because we're talking about North Oconee state championships. I mean, you guys are already 5-0 to start the season. You obviously had a convincing win this past Friday against East Forsyth. The defending state champs in Class 4A. What has it – and to what we talked about earlier, you've won 2 state championships in basketball. You're a defending state championship champion in football, going for 4 in a row really in basketball and football. What is special? What's in the water over at North Oconee that allows this championship pedigree?
I feel like we got a whole kind of different new culture at the school, kind of when all those new coaches came in, I think 7 or 8 years ago. Like we got a new basketball head coach, new football head coach, kind of every sport there kind of got new culture when it comes down to it. Coach Peters is our DC there. He in the weight room, he kind of changed the culture there when it comes to we understand that we need to get stronger because he understood what it needed to be, and I kind of understand what it needs to look like to win a state championship because won 3, not with the help without my team. But I feel like everybody's kind of bought into what needs to be done there and what the school needs to look like from the sports side. So we understand that we want our school to become a great school and win a lot of state championships.
Awesome. Well, best of luck to you and North Oconee on getting those 4 straight in both sports. Appreciate you for joining the show. I'm going to hold your feet to the fire for a second. Can I count you in for the signing day show that we like to do with all the recruits as well?
Yes. Just let me know probably a time whenever that is, and I'll try to make it work. Definitely.
Exactly. I always like to hold your feet to the fire when you're actually on the air, right? So that I then can have all the Georgia fans hold you to it as well. All right. Appreciate you, Kamari. Thanks for joining us. Best of luck with the rest of your season, and just looking forward to following the rest of your journey.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
All right. We appreciate any time that members of the 2026 class or 2025 class, when we had them on, 2027 class, I know that we're going to have them in the future. We appreciate them joining the show. I always think that they're the highlights of our episodes because, as I tell these guys every time before I speak with them for the show, nobody wants to hear from me. Nobody wants to hear from Jordan. They've heard us talking all beginning of the episode long. We're going to be talking after they get on there as well. But the time that we're getting to interview those players, you're getting some insights into some future faces that are going to be stars for Georgia. It's always really, really nice. So I appreciate anytime any of them join the show with us. Jordan, there was some news that happened on the semi-recruiting front, I guess that you could say, earlier or at the beginning of last week, the transfer portal window. This has been a conversation point really all offseason. As we know, Kirby Smart has been pretty vocal about the importance of having one portal window, and it was confirmed last week. The NCAA Administrative Committee adopted a proposal that eliminates the spring transfer portal window. So we've had we started out, there were no portal windows, and everyone realized that was pure chaos. So you need to have 2 windows. Everyone sort of realized, all right, the portal window before spring and then the portal window after spring just means you're recruiting your roster multiple times over during the season. It's not sensible. So coaches have been advocating for this one portal window for a while. I think most people, other than players that want as much freedom as possible to change schools, have been advocating for this for a while. I know we would rather only have one portal window selfishly, because trying to connect the dots multiple times a year before spring and after spring can become really complicating. But this is going to take place after this season. So that means there's no more Josh McCrae's. There's no more Elo Mendozi's. Like a lot of these programs, there were more than 1,000 FBS players entered the portal post spring, which is crazy. Georgia doesn't typically get involved post spring, but I think that Georgia, knowing it was probably going to be the last post spring portal window, like, take advantage of any opportunities that you have to improve your roster. There's still some things that have to hash themselves out with this. So what is the exact date of that 10-day portal window, which that's another thing, reducing the portal window from, I think it was 30 days to 10 days. Players are only going to have 10 days to enter into the portal. Right now, the estimation is January 2nd to January 11th. I don't think they have to finalize that date until sometime in October. So there's a little bit of flexibility in terms of when that date can be. I'm sure that most of the conversation will be around how do you make this as manageable as possible for the teams that are still in the college football playoff. The semifinals right now are January 8th and 9th. So they would have a small little window where the portal is still going on, but it's really hard for these teams that are in the semifinal and the national championship, that you are dealing with portal stuff, the incoming side of the portal stuff, and who's entering the portal while trying to coach up and win a national championship game. When it comes to the players themselves, they're still going to have that 5-day window after their season ends to be able to enter the portal. But for coaches, that 10 days, the 4 teams that are still playing in the college football playoff, when that portal is open, not a fun time. I think the lesser of 2 evils is if only 4 coaching staffs are having to deal with that. That's better than having 2 portal windows that every single team in college football is having to deal with. So still a little bit to figure out from the date standpoint, but I think I speak for you, Jordan, and I think I speak for just about everybody other than a player who would like to enter the portal next spring, that this is getting back to a more normal, reasonable way of thinking about the transfer portal.
Totally agree. Like you said, the teams still competing for the national title are a little at a disadvantage, but what will help them is that whoever's responsible for going out there and recruiting portal guys can say, hey, look, we're 2 wins away. We're a win away from a national title. So I think that kind of makes up for it. And I thought it was funny. Back at spring meetings in May, Kirby talked about it, and he talked about wanting one window. And you could tell he was thinking January was the best bet. But, he brought up the challenge of being one of those last teams. And Kirby said that he was told, quote, there's no crying from the yacht. But I did want to read part of the quote that Kirby had about just having a January window, because I thought it kind of sums up why spring and doing it after spring practice was kind of problematic for coaches. And he said, quote, I think it's really important in football to have your team at whatever date in January, whatever we decide that is. And then you work those guys out, you train those guys, you lift, you prepare, you do meetings. I'm great with the money they make. I'm great with them being able to go into the portal. And if you ask kids when they would like to be able to go on in the portal, they're going to say in January so they can go get started at their new place. I mean, having guys go through spring practice and you think you have a good sense of your depth and what roles guys are going to play, only to lose guys, it's tough on coaches. I get the player perspective of, okay, I just went through spring practice. I thought I could be, maybe the second running back. Well, I'm the 5th running back and I want to go somewhere else. I understand that, and I get that that's tough, but I think a move to one window makes sense for everybody involved. I am a little surprised that window is so small, but I know just looking selfishly for us, that means only 2 weeks of trying to follow what happens rather than an entire month.
Now, what I will add there is that's the window that people have to add their names into the portal. They can make their decision really whenever they want. And that, I'm sure there will be some awesome player that enters the portal, ill-advised, ends up not being there for that semester and not doing spring. But I'm sure something weird will come of this because it's college football recruiting, and that's just how it goes. As we also know, that's the window that players can formally enter their name into the portal. Chances are we'll have public announcements of guys intending to enter their name into the portal well before that January 2nd date or whatever that turns out to be, just because guys' seasons will end and they're going to want to get out in front of it and say, hey, just so you know, I'm going to be in the portal in a couple of weeks. Like, make sure that you're keeping an eye out for my name there. The other thing, and Kirby Smart's brought this up as well, the real challenge in all of this and why the timing, there's no right answers, is because of how the college academic schedule works. Like, the perfect world is they wait and do this portal window after the national championship game. They'll wait until like the last week of January or first week of February, but you can't do that because college semesters have already started. And so I don't know what the answer ends up being. I understand we're still like under this guise of amateurism to an extent that makes the college calendar matter a lot. And I'm not saying that it shouldn't. I'm not taking away from that part of it, like being something that gets undermined in this whole world. But you would think they could figure out some schedule somehow that they could make it work with the college. These universities are making so much money off of these football teams. You would think that they could figure out how to make it all work. You can't move the football schedule up because it's too hot in the summer. And then you want to have enough bye weeks so that guys can have rest. Like, you factor in every single thing. Nothing's ever going to be able to be perfect. For right now, I think the portal is the imperfect thing that is just going to be there at the beginning of January, even though the college football season's not over for a handful of teams. So no perfect answer, but closer to a perfect answer today than it was 2 weeks ago. All right, Jordan, we're going to jump into some segments. I do see that you have something up here to share. What segment is that for, just so I know?
That's arrow pointing up.
All right, I was not planning on doing any arrow pointing up, So I'm going to let this be the official Jordan Hill sponsored arrow pointing up segment because I can see that he's got something that the arrow's pointing up on. So Jordan will do arrow pointing up. I didn't come prepared. Hand up on that. Imagine that, me not showing up prepared to my own show. Who would have guessed that? You do arrow pointing up, and then we'll hop into a predict to commit refresher.
Yeah, Ben's still on that bye week mindset. It's kind of
right.
sad. Two things. One, backup quarterbacks in the NFL. Kind of feel like Bill Simmons. Are backup quarterbacks having a moment? Bengals, Commanders, Vikings, 49ers, Jets. They played, 2 weeks of the NFL season? You got several quarterbacks banged up. You know who doesn't have to worry about a backup situation? The Atlanta Falcons,
That's right.
who took care of that in 2024. So just wanted to shout that out there. I figured you'd appreciate that.
I very much do appreciate that. Very fun, by the way, watching. I realize this is airing after the Panthers game. We're doing this before the Panthers game, and then it's airing after the Panthers game. So we could look. But I feel good about the Falcons right now. I feel good about the Falcons. But a must win against the Panthers. So
nothing bad could possibly go wrong.
Yeah, there's no way that we live to regret this one. If the Falcons season free falls, we're the reason why.
All right, my other arrow pointing up, Tim Robinson. It's been a few months. We went and saw Friendship. I think we both enjoyed that. He's got a new TV show coming out on HBO, The Chair Company. I honestly don't know a ton about it other than it's like he works at this company and starts to unravel like this huge conspiracy. But it's coming out on HBO. October 12th will be the first one. I think everything Tim Robinson does is hysterical. So I'm signing up for this one. I think it'll be a good one.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out after we watch that Friendship movie. I need to check out more of his stuff just because it's right up my alley. So I like that one as well, and I will check that out. Even though I won't tell our Paramount folks that you're pushing HBO Max movies.
There's enough love to go around. I'll say that.
That's right. That's right. I will say an arrow pointing up since I wasn't prepared for it, but it had me thinking of it when you brought up NFL stuff. James Cook, man, is just so awesome to watch. I think when he was at Georgia, he was like one of the more underappreciated players during his time at Georgia, to the point that I don't know until he had that field position changing run in the national championship game in 2021 that anybody fully appreciated or respected how important he was to Georgia. But I think that he's almost had like a post-college renaissance where Georgia fans have like fallen back in love with James Cook. And I think that they realize now how special he really was and important he was to that 2021 run. And I think that the way his NFL career has gone has made people feel more strongly about that.
Yeah, I'll just say on that, looking back to last year, I think he had like 16 touchdowns. And for people who follow fantasy football, I heard a lot of discussion of like, well, that was a really good year, but he's not going to do that again. Yeah. He's kind of doing it again. And as someone who has him in a dynasty fantasy league, thrilled to see it.
I just had this conversation this morning, but like, I don't think I ever would have expected to be feeling that James Cook was the better of the two Cook brothers. But it's like, when you look at it talent-wise, skill set-wise, productivity-wise, accomplishment-wise, when you look at the end of their careers, James Cook is going to be the better of the two Cook running backs. And I don't know about you, but I always viewed him originally when he was getting recruited and early on at Georgia, like he's Dalvin's little brother. That's what he was. And it was like, he's a fine player, but he's Dalvin's little brother. Dalvin is James Cook's older brother. Like we're at that point now. All right. It's been a minute. For the most part, the 2026 recruiting class is accounted for. We're pretty far along in the predict to commit this cycle, so there's not a ton left. We will take a stab at some ones today, and we'll see where it goes. I've been trying to use ChatGPT and AI to create a graphic just to make it easier and all morning and like while we've been doing this show, and it hasn't been working out well. There's always been something wrong. It's always indicated that one player was right or one player was wrong where it wasn't supposed to be. I then just had them redo a graphic one more time while we were doing this. I was like, maybe we'll do it so I can show it and make it look easier for folks. And it was so ridiculous what they created, Jordan. I have to show you. I think the names might be right, but if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, you'll see this. Somehow they've just put random guys' faces above our names with the picks that we've made. I think it mostly has our picks correct, but it's done some strike throughs for some where it shouldn't. But I'll give a refresh. I'll read it out as a refresher for what everyone has. Jordan has 10 predicted commits correct at this point. That is quarterback Jared Curtis, defensive lineman Carter Lucky, safety Jordan Smith, edge rusher Kamari Brooks, defensive lineman James Johnson. I did asterisk next to that. It's still a correct answer, but I did asterisk it just because I feel like we would get some questions from folks if we're not asterisking it. Not that we're ever going to share this graphic publicly, because I have no idea who these gentlemen are that are next to our names. You have wide receiver Craig Dandridge, defensive lineman PJ Dean, tight end Caden Prothrow, and tight end Braden Fogel. You can see on the list some of the misses that were there as well. I have 12 correct, and now that I'm looking at it, all 12 of them are certainly not showing up on this list, so I'm going to have to go to another list. I've got offensive lineman Graham Houston, safety Zach Fort, wide receiver Ryan Mosley, cornerback Justice Fitzpatrick, who things are a little touch and go with Justice Fitzpatrick right now, if we're being honest. Offensive lineman Zyke Helton, offensive lineman Ekene Boko, running back Jay Lamar, defensive lineman Corey Howard, someone else that I've also mentioned things are a little bit touch and go with. Cornerback Chase Calicut. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not even going to speak on it. Well, let's see we just got to see how that plays out. It's not even worth speaking on. I don't know what to make of that situation right now, so we'll just leave it at that. Valden Sohn, linebacker Nick Abrams, and then defensive back safety Tyreek Green. I don't even know who wasn't showing up. It looks like it was Nick Abrams and Tyreek Green were not showing up on my correct list on this graphic. So once again, if you think that the humans are losing to AI, that's not the case. It can't even put together a simple graphic when I give it very specific instructions what to do. And again, I don't know who these men are that are representing themselves as Jordan D. Hill and Ben Wolk on this graphic. But that's 12 for me, 10 for Jordan. I think I've got a narrow edge in the if you apply the composite rankings to this, which I'll do more in full for the next episode that we do. We are going to do a predicted commit for this episode, Jordan. And I'm going to give you the opportunity to go first.
Well, first, I just want to say Ben Wolk, a friend of the robot, and you see where that got him. I'm a working class man. Let's give those designers some graphics. I'll make a one that at least shows our face. And hey, maybe if I don't win this competition, maybe that becomes my profile picture for maybe a week or two.
Or you just share that graphic and you're like some guy named Jordan D. Hill that looks like this picked all these things. But I will say, before we make our picks this week, I think getting 22 of the 31 commits, knowing that like Anthony Lunnon's commitment came in a spot where we weren't going to be able to do it. Lincoln Keys was already committed before we were going to be able to do it. I think we've done a really good job in terms of getting the ones that we've gotten, and even the ones that we've missed. There have only been a handful of them where it got to the point where they were making a decision and Georgia just flat out wasn't in it anymore. So given how early we started it in this recruiting cycle, what we've done is great. And the fact that you are on my tail here coming down the stretch, I need to do a little bit of soul searching as we look towards the 2027 recruiting class too.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. I was really expecting to get my ass kicked in this competition, and to have double digits. I kind of like having a guy that didn't decommitted, because I kind of like that. Well, technically, I did get that right. So I'll go first. Thank you for letting me go first, because we're getting down to the wire and the options are very few and far between. And I'm going to go with Jared Dowdy. I think that the fact that he's an in-state guy, I think the fact that Georgia got on him when they did. I don't think it's a coincidence that they really paid attention to some of those evaluations from Georgia State, like they did with Dennis in the last cycle. I don't think it's going to be easy. I think Alabama's going to work really hard to make this interesting. Florida State. But yeah, I mean, he, 6'6", 300 pounds, looking for another offensive tackle. I really like the potential for Georgia to keep Jared Dowdy in state and for him to join the 2026 class.
Yeah, it was the right pick. There was part of me, if we were closer, if it was like 11-11 or 10-10, something like that, there's a good chance that I would have, pulled the recruiting card and gone first on that one. I felt like you've earned some first picks, and so I don't feel like I needed to pull any fast ones on you on that one. You deserve that. For my pick, I'm a little bit torn here because I think Georgia will likely take a second running back in the class, and so the logical spot is running back. What I'm really torn about is, if I pick a running back right now, it's Amari Latimer, Sandy Creek running back. He's committed to Wisconsin right now, and that's probably where I'm leaning. You're listening to me talk through this live because I don't 100% know which direction I'm going. At the end of last week, Georgia offered a Washington cornerback commit named Rajon Duncan. 6'1", 190 pounds, ran a 10.7 in the 100, checks all those boxes, big, physical, fast cornerback from the West Coast. Georgia doesn't really have cornerback spots right now. But what's the situation with Chase Calicut? We don't really know yet and won't know probably until October's finished. Maybe even not by then. Justice Fitzpatrick's going back to his second, or just went back to his second Miami game this season. His brother plays for the Dolphins. He's around those facilities all the time. Like, I don't think things are super comfortable. So, like, I could go Amari Latimer here, or I could take a flyer on Rajon Duncan, who I admittedly don't know a ton about. But, look, Georgia offers Jared Dowdy week 1, and it's like, okay, what's going on here? There's something to this, and now it's become a big thing. I feel like something similar could happen with Rajon Duncan, but I'm not there yet. I haven't spoken to Rajon Duncan. I would feel out of turn to be making a prediction like that without knowing that there's really not DB spots available right now. And he hasn't said anything about that he would consider decommitting from Washington. So I'm going to go with Amari Latimer. 6'2", 230-pound running back, Sandy Creek, one of the most productive football players in the state of Georgia. He's committed to Wisconsin. If you go back and look at my last mock class, he's in there. Not very confidently because I knew that he was going to be committing to Wisconsin, or maybe even had just committed to Wisconsin. But Georgia's got to find a second running back. He fits the complement to Jay Lamar that I think Georgia would be looking for. The one question I have is, like, if it's not going to be, like, if it is going to be Georgia, why hasn't it already been Georgia? Like, what's taken so long? Why did they not schedule an OV? You know, why did he commit to Wisconsin so early? Like, I have questions, admittedly, but what I'm sort of banking on is how good of a football player that I believe Amari Latimer to be. In fact, I think that there's a chance that I think that Amari Latimer might be, like, Amari Latimer is probably higher on my board. That doesn't exist, for the record, but he's probably a little bit higher on my board than he is on Georgia's board. And I've just seen him so much. He's so productive. I realize at the high school level, I realize his top end breakaway speed is not going to be what Georgia typically looks for from its running backs, but he's such a good pass catcher out of the backfield at 230 pounds. And he's such a weapon in short yardage situations because of his size. Like, I just feel like ultimately he's going to be the right option for Georgia at running back in the 2026 class. And beyond that, I'm not sold on what Wisconsin is going to be able to do the rest of this season. I just don't think that they've got what it takes to hang in the Big Ten this year. They've already slipped up to start the season. You know, they looked very much like you would expect Wisconsin to look against Alabama for the second year in a row. The fact that Amari Latimer's brother is at Wisconsin is the reason why Wisconsin is in such a good spot right now. But you've just got to watch Luke Fickell and his staff. How strong is that job security? If that staff is able to stick around and they're able to piece together 8 wins, I think there's a world where Wisconsin can hold on there. If that doesn't happen, I think that he's going to have to be looking around and say, what's best for my football future? And I think that Georgia will ultimately circle around and see Amari Latimer as the right guy. Taking a little bit of a chance there because I'm not super, super convinced that that's the way that it plays out, but he's been in my mocks in the past, and I love this football player.
Yeah, I think it's the right pick there. And, I mean, the fact Jameer Latimer's there, that's Amari's brother, makes it really interesting to me. And I think for me, whether you think he picks Wisconsin and goes elsewhere is, you can tie that to, is this Wisconsin staff still together after this year? I don't know that, in these last few years, there's been a more disappointing run than Luke Fickell at Wisconsin. That was somebody who thought, man, that's a home run hire. That's really going to work. And, they tried to kind of change the offense from what's pretty much been the only thing to ever work at Wisconsin. And that hasn't worked. And, early in the season, the returns aren't good. So if you're a Georgia fan, I'd say pay attention to what happens to Wisconsin, because I do think that will have a direct effect and help decide what winds up happening with Amari Latimer.
All right, Jordan, a great episode. I thought what will be a longer episode for folks. Just kick off your week. So we'll have more Junkyard Dawgcast episodes throughout this week. Jordan and Kip and I talking about the matchup ahead. Jordan, I assume that you're going to be connecting with somebody on the Alabama side to talk about, preview that game later in the week as well. So plenty for you to listen to throughout the week or watch if you do that. There will be plenty at Dogs 24/7. I've said it before already this episode. I'll say it again. Subscribe to Dogs 24/7. Jordan, hit him with the promo one more time.
$1 for your first month or 30% off of an annual subscription. So great time. And if you want a week full of intel, this is the week. Alabama week, a lot of recruiting intel. We'll see what we can find out, what's going on around practice. If you're listening to this on Monday, on Tuesday night, we'll learn about Georgia's 2026 schedule. So we'll share who they're going to be playing, our thoughts on that. It's an action-packed week, Ben, and I hope the people watching and listening, hope they join us over on the Junkyard and help us talk it through, because there's going to be a lot to discuss.
Absolutely. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, download, subscribe in those places if that's where you watch or listen to us. We appreciate you. There will be plenty of content coming out of the weekend as well from the recruiting front, so stay locked in there too, because all these guys and names that we've mentioned at the beginning of the episode, we're going to have updates from them coming out of these visits as well. So for Jordan Hill, I'm your host, Benjamin Wolk. This was another episode of the Junkyard Dawgcast, a Stay Wolk UGA recruiting show edition, and it's going to be a fun week.